Let's start, as they say in the old Jewish expression, if you can't stand the heat, open up the oven, right? Let's start with the ovens. Koshering the ovens. You feel free to interrupt with any...
Koshering the ovens.
Yeah. Now okay. The Orthodox Jewish community, several years ago, invented the self-cleaning oven. That was specifically for the purpose of bringing up temperatures well beyond 900 degrees, which allows total koshering. And there are several levels of koshering that we'll discuss tonight. One of them we did this morning, Hagola, where we use hot water, boiling hot water. And then there's a higher level of koshering, which is called libun. In libun, there are two types of koshering. Libun literally means, like the word lavon, to make something white, make something very hot. One type of libun is called libun kal, and the other type is called libun gamur. We try to be makbid, especially when it comes to Pesach, to rely only on libun gamur. That means that if you have a self-cleaning oven, you're certainly going to get it hot enough for libun gamur. The problem is, if you don't have a self-cleaning oven, what should one do? Get one. Right. That's the easiest.
I still have a blowtorch.
That's the easiest answer. Blowtorching ovens, essentially what you have to do is you have to leave it on an area of about less than 8 square inches at a time, and you have to leave it on there for a few minutes. And it takes a long, tedious time, and it's quite dangerous, actually. It's really not. If you're interested in blowing up your house, and collecting on the insurance is probably one of the ways to go ahead and do it. However, there is room to be made, there is room to be lenient if one has to be, and that is that when it comes to koshering the oven, if it's a regular oven, to have it cleaned out very well, using some type of caustic cleaner. By the way, even those of us who have the self-cleaning ovens, you still have to clean it out well, because the hinges, the doors, the gasket, and other things do not become clean by the self-cleaning cycle. So you still have to scrub those parts, and you still have to clean them very, very well, and then reheat the oven again. So even the self-cleaning oven, you have to remember that you want to cover your gasket, you want to do your gaskets and so. If you can cover those parts of the oven, that's even better, of course. If you don't have that self-cleaning oven again, so then there are two options. The lesser of the two options, the least preferable of the two options, as we started to mention, is to clean it out very well and leave it on the highest so that both elements go. Like if there's a broil element on top, that's going, and if there's a bottom element that's going, that they're both going for a good half hour, 45 minutes on each one of the cycles, so that you have it on significantly hot. The better way to do it, if you have that type of oven and you cannot, and you're afraid to use a blowtorch, which I can't recommend the use of a blowtorch. In the old days, they were using this gentle cleanser called napalm, and just covered up, took care of everything, literally. But if you don't do that, what we used to do in Los Angeles was we had oven inserts, aluminum squares that fit into the oven, and that takes care of the problem of that type of oven. No, it doesn't. It's actually quite... my wife was very skeptical about it when I brought it home. I told her, just kind of followed me home. And it was quite effective. It really... she was surprised how it didn't burn anything, and it really matched, pretty much parallel, the temperature of the oven. The top part of the range on the oven top, so if one has an electric range, you reach the point of libun gamur, you reach the point of it glowing when it glows. When it turns red hot, then it's koshered. Then it's koshered. No, just for a minute, red hot is fine. That's fine. If it's a gas oven range, then the issue is an issue of the grates. You see, in an electric one, the coils are the grates, right? So the gas grates, they should be inverted and placed on top of the fire so that they can burn out, and they should burn till they're very, very hot and glowing. If they don't glow, but they're still hot, very hot, and you leave them there for 20 minutes in it or half an hour in it, so that also is sufficient. The Corning top ranges also reach a Liban Gomer. They get up to temperatures of 550 degrees. So that's also sufficient. So in terms of the ovens, it does require elbow grease, no matter what you have, what type of oven you have, especially the grates and everything else. The top part of the oven presents us with another part of the problem, on the range itself. And that is the other spaces that you don't have the grates. Because foods are spilled there during the course of the year, and generally they're enamel, there's no way really to kosher that. There's no way to kosher that. Nobody wants to put coals or blowtorch the top of their oven ranges. So what we recommend is to either cover it with aluminum foil, or what we did is we bought a tin and just cut out circles, and we use Save just for Pesach, and we just put the tin on top of it so that it fits in. And replace the other parts, which cost like $1.50 in the store, the ring and the basket that holds, that goes underneath the grates on top of the oven range. So those are very easily replaceable, and it saves you a lot of wear and tear and putting aluminum foil all over the place, which slides and slips all during Yom Tov anyway. This way you have a rather permanent type of setup and use it from year to year, and you clean it off after Pesach, and you have it. If it's stainless steel, then the way to kosher it would be using, the way that it would absorb something would be with irui kli rishon, that food would pour from let's say, from the pot or something on it. If it's stainless steel, you could kosher it using irui kli rishon, but it's very messy. It means pouring boiling hot water on top of the surface top. Make sure the baby is not around there, right? And neither your husband either. But that, again, that's messy, but that becomes doable. Stainless steel can be kosher, like a stainless steel sink, which we'll get to in a few moments. After the oven, any questions on the oven?
What did you say about tins? Like a cookie sheet type of tin?
Right. There's tins that come in a roll. It's rather flexible. Within a tin snipper, you can cut holes in the center, and they clean off afterwards, and you just put them away, and then you just bring them back out. The more permanent type of things you can do from year to year, the easier Pesach is. For example, what we do with our cupboards. So if the cupboard, and I'm skipping ahead, but if the cupboard, let's say, that you keep food in during the course of the year in the kitchen, and many religious people do keep food in their cupboards, and they don't speak Lashon Hara, but they do keep chametz in their pantries during the year. The problem is that some of them are very hard to clean, to get into the corners. You can't really get up there and stick your head in there. You're scared somebody's going to kick the chair out from underneath you, and so it's not a bad idea to line them. You don't have to. If you can see that they're really clean, right? If you can get in there well and see that there aren't any crumbs around in there, so then it's sufficient not to have to line them. However, it's very hard. What's so funny?
They would need it, then it's okay, right?
Well, they might not see it. You see, let me. How big are they? They could probably fit in any place. We can rent them out for Pesach. Yeah. You see, there are two chumrot, two stringencies on Pesach which make it and create this type of havoc inside of the kitchen. Number one is normally the definition of food when it comes to other prohibitions of eating, like so eating non-kosher food, or milk and meat combined together. The definition of food, it has to be a nevela haruya lager, has to be fit for a human being to eat. It's considered food by human consumptive requirements. If people don't eat it, for example, let's say pigskin, hush puppies. If most people will not eat a hush puppy soup, so that's considered nevela shenaruya lager. That's not considered food. However, when it comes to Pesach, it's not determined what a person would eat, but it's ein aruya lachilas kelev, what a dog would eat. And that makes it much harder to invalidate its status of being food. Because dogs eat just about anything and everything, right? So I know that, for example, my Rebbe, Rav Soloveitchik, once was questioning whether or not he claimed that dogs don't eat toothpaste. So he felt that the toothpaste issue shouldn't be an issue when it comes to Pesach. And so he did an experiment. He took a dog bowl, and he filled it with Colgate, and there was a dog, and called over the dog, and the dog ate it. And the Rebbe says, stupid hund. You know, that was a stupid dog. Then he claimed the smart dog couldn't eat it. Yeah. Yeah. But really, that really changes that definition, number one. Number two, we normally have a definition when it comes to the prohibitions of eating, a halakha called bitul. If something is less than 1 in 60 in ratio, under many circumstances we consider it like it's not there. When it comes to chametz on Pesach, that halakha doesn't apply on food on Pesach. So if a mixture takes place on Pesach, then bitul, then nullifying the presence of the chametz in the mixture does not apply. So the tiniest piece of chametz creates a problem when it comes to Pesach. And that's specifically if the mixture takes place on Pesach. However, if the mixture would take place before Pesach, if, for example, in milk, if a little tiny crumb fell into the big milk container, the big milk jug prior to Pesach, then it would be batel. Only if the mixture took place on Pesach is it not batel. There's several reasons for it to go into technicalities that I don't want to address tonight, but it's an important piece of information. The information, therefore, tells us that if we have the opportunity to buy something prior to Pesach, then it's better than on Pesach. The example that becomes very nogea, very relevant for, is that, for example, when it comes to milk or eggs or other things where there might be the tiniest speck of mixture in it. So if you buy your milk before Pesach, then really no special certification is necessary. But if you buy your milk on Pesach, then it should definitely be a milk which is certified kosher, which, again, the only real certified kosher milks then become what used to be the blue milk, now it's red and blue. Now we're going to go to another thing that we're getting another place to supply our milks. So I'm not sure what the color is. It's kind of burger creamery.
So as long as we purchase the milk before Passover starts, we buy the same milk we use on the
Right. That's correct. And put it milk and things. No. We're only talking specifically about milk, where the only problem might be the tiniest thing being dropped in. That's the regular milk, not some enriched, or fortified milk. Just regular milk.
You can buy like lactate?
No, you cannot buy. Lactate is not kosher for Pesach.
Are you going to go back to my place?
Yeah. We'll get back to the other parts of the kitchen. But when it comes to bittul, that's why we suggest too that things should be bought beforehand. Of course, there's nothing wrong with going ahead and buying Chalav Yisrael milk, especially especially for Pesach. Let's go back to the other parts of the kitchen. The opposite of the oven is the refrigerator, and the refrigerator presents an interesting issue because the first time that I told women that they really don't have to line the refrigerator shelves, I was almost, they almost thought I was a conservative rabbi. Right? Now, the issue is if a refrigerator can be cleaned well, especially if the shelves come out, and it can be cleaned well, number one. So you see that there's absolutely no food particles on it, and you can see it if you can take it out. See, unlike the cupboards, where it's hard to take the shelves out. If the shelves would come out of the cupboards, and you could see it, right, then it wouldn't be an issue. You'd see there's no chametz on it, so there's nothing there. The refrigerator shelves come out, and you can clean them well. So then really you don't have to line them, as long as in the course of the year you don't put things in the refrigerator hot. If you have a habit of putting things in the refrigerator hot, then you have to line it. Right? Then you have to line it.
hot being
More than yad solet bo. More than you could put your hand on it comfortably. Okay? Not warm, but hot, where your hand would feel the need to withdraw itself from it. Then you'd have to. And other people will do.
I like that. If hot is warm, I keep my hand down. And then I would put it in the refrigerator. But if it warms in my hand, I always have cold feet. So I wouldn't be on. And I consider that hot.
Yeah. No, hot means that you couldn't comfortably leave your hands there. You have to pull your hands away after a few seconds. If you don't put your things in hot, then you don't have to line the refrigerator shelves if you can pull them out and clean them well. In fact, I'd probably recommend not to line them, especially if they're the ones that have holes in them, because that means it relies generally on the circulation of air to keep the refrigerator working and the food spoilage retarded.
If it's cracked on the refrigerator, you have to close them?
What?
If the refrigerator is cracked, or is cracked or hole.
You should, because it's very hard to clean it.
You just tape it?
Tape it, yeah, put tape over it. Okay. The countertops inside of the, located on top of the counters, right? Yeah, last year I suggested, because I've been doing it for a few years now, going out and buying these egg crate, they're called egg crate light covers. What they are they're very thin, they're about something, yeah, like this, but they're honeycomb. What it does is, and then you cut it again to fit the shape of your counters. They snip very easily, and you kind of tie them together with the little twisties, right? And then you have from year to year a surface that doesn't let the thing smell underneath it. Because when you cover your counters, almost invariably liquid leaks underneath it. And then by the time when you lift it up after Pesach, the whole house smells for about 2 or 3 days. What this does is that it's porous, right, because it's honeycomb. It keeps everything, it keeps all the pots and dishes and everything above the counter, so it's not touching the counter. Things would drip down, you just lift it up and wipe it. And
How do you remember from year to year which side is up?
It doesn't matter. First of all, you can see the difference. But it's very easy to put it back together again. Very easy to put it back together. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You know, this piece, that piece, that piece. Or you could put on. Right. That's a great idea because it really handles the problem with the counters. People put down aluminum foil and plastic, and it becomes very smelly and it slips and slides. This is very neat and meticulous, and it looks very nice in the kitchen also. This is suggested in Better Homes and Yiddish Gardens. Yeah.
If we were told that we could kosher our countertops.
And what's your countertop made of? What?
It's made of stone.
We don't kosher stone on Pesach.
There you go.
No. We don't kosher. We're more machmir koshering things on Pesach.
That's what I'm asking.
Right. When it comes to Pesach.
But it's a man-made substance. It's not like
Right, that's correct. And we don't kosher there are substances that during the year that we would kosher. Plastic, man-made rubbers, even artificial, even natural rubbers, etc. We don't do that in Pesach. You see, there's a general discussion as to the viability of koshering these products because they're not mentioned in the Torah, kind of in between. They're in the places, there are things the Torah says you can kosher, things the Torah says you can kosher. There's a gray area of those things in between. So during the rest of the year we do kosher them. When it comes to Pesach, we don't kosher them. So that countertop would not be viable to be kosher for Pesach.
So you can't change things on acceptable area.
That's correct. That's correct. Anything rubber, plastic, things like that. Yes, tomorrow night. Now we don't kosher Corningware, plastic, Pyrex, the synthetic rubbers, Teflon, stoneware, porcelain.
But if it's new,
Right, we don't kosher them. We don't change them from being chametz stick to pay stick. That's the countertops. The sink, so it depends. If it's a stainless steel sink, so you can, as we said before, you can pour hot water in it. Now the faucet should be cleaned, and the handle should also be poured hot water on them, so that they should be koshered for Pesach. Since you don't really have food coming in contact, you don't put food on them. So even if they're plastics or things like that, you can still use them without having to cover them up. But just pour hot water on everything. We always suggest, though, especially if you have one sink, you're always going to have that interchange between milchiks and fleischiks anyway. So even after you kosher your sink, it's important to use basins. You have one basin for milchik, one basin for fleischik, and one basin for treif. That's the stuff that happens when your husband gets into the kitchen and starts taking over. Okay. So, and certainly if you have a porcelain sink, there's no way to kosher the porcelain. You cannot kosher porcelain sink, so then it's mandatory for you to have a basin. Once you have a basin, then the only problem is what happens if you drop something in the sink. Some people buy inserts just for that time, just for that issue. But if you kosher your sink, right, and then you use the basin, so it's really not necessary. Dishwashers, unless you have
So if it's enamel,
It's metal?
not metal,
Right.
regular.
So you should either buy an insert for it, or use basins and just make sure you don't drop anything into the
You
sink.
cannot make, since it's glycine, you're not able to make a hole when there's pour of water in it.
No, not by porcelain. Not by
The
cheres.
bottom
Porcelain
of
is a thin of cheres.
The bottom of your...
Yeah, but you don't really have to. If you're going to use a basin, which you have to anyway, so, what?
The bottom.
There's always
If you're just dropping stuff, yeah, that's a problem. So use an insert. They sell these inserts at Lakewood.
The bottom of the
Do you use
dish
contact tape?
Right.
you shouldn't stack it, or if it's cold?
If it's clean, if you wash it off with, let's say, a paper towel, and then you could stack it.
The problem is the grinder, the thing you put the food in the grind.
Right.
It will be always chametz in it. How you can.
Right. With a grinder, the grinder that's inside, of course you should run your grinder through.
with
Yeah.
that garbage disposal?
Right, yeah. You should run your garbage disposal through, and pour some detergent in there, and pour cold water in it to get it all as much as you can out. And if it doesn't clog up, you don't have a problem. If it clogs up, it could chametz up your sink. So you have to make sure you don't have any clogs.
If
But
it's
you-
happening
by
a
the
lot,
third day, by
What?
Shabbos
if
we
it's
go.
happening, it's happening a lot, but the grinder is
Without
always
it, Shabbos we
clogging
go.
up every Sabbath. It's
It comes up. It comes up.
we'll have others to close it.
Shabbos nothing.
Yeah,
but
better not to use it.
Tell 'em that by Shabbos we
Better
go.
take it out.
Clean the dishes in the bathroom.
Bodies.
No.
There's only one
Garbage
sink.
is supposed to go on
What?
every
There's-
5
There's only one
Yeah,
sink and with
Over Shabbos,
Ours we do.
Well, then if it's going to be a problem, if so the sink constantly is backing up.
it's every Sabbath when we don't use it and
Uh-huh.
it's coming out.
So you can't pour. So first, you should try to have it cleaned out. If you can have that thing cleaned out, usually it shouldn't back up. If it's backing up, it means there's something stuck in there.
Next one we can fix it.
And there's a trick also.
Can you do that the food, the chametz in it can be with, if I put like detergent or anything, so it's
Right,
not
so that's-
even larelat kelev, it's not larelat kelev.
Right,
so
right.
it will-
You'll have to start Pesach a week early.
What? Yeah.
That's right.
If you pour something caustic down there, like a drain cleaner, you pour down some Drano, it'll probably help dissolve it. And number two, it'll make any chametz that's in there just poisonous. It's not really looking less kelev. Dishwashers, unless you have a metal dishwasher, there's nothing to talk about. You cannot kosher the regular porcelain dishwashers for Pesach. In general, the status, yeah.
If ours was okay to kosher when we moved in the house, so we didn't get any house and kosher.
Well, let me put it like this: there are people who have been lenient on the metal dishwashers that are porcelain coated. Is yours stainless steel inside, or is it?
It sounds metallic, that's the best.
Sounds metallic. Like, what type is it? KitchenAid? It goes. Yeah. Well, again,
I don't think it's porcelain, because he told us it's porcelain and kosher.
That's right. If it's a metal, you see, if it's a plastic dishwasher, we don't kosher plastic on Pesach, even though we're more makel and we're more lenient in koshering it during the year. If it's a stainless steel dishwasher, then if it's stainless steel, then you'd have to replace the racks again, get totally new.
You can't just run it
No, because the racks are not made of metal. You have to replace the racks and probably the top hose. Top hose, the hose unit on the top. What?
It was an orange.
Oh, okay. The tables you should clean well and cover with the plastic before putting your tablecloths on top of them. Microwaves.
Last year it was me.
Yes, you should cover it with plastic underneath it.
Just be there the whole time.
Right. Microwaves cannot be used on Yom Tov, of course, but during Chol Hamoed you can use them, or before Pesach you can use them. After Pesach you can use them. The microwave can be koshered in the following way. First of all, most microwaves have some type of plastic covering over the light or fan unit. Those usually pop out if you just pull them, and you'll find tons of crumbs behind it. Crumbs get behind there voraciously. They're crumb suckers. And if you want to use your microwave, you should make sure that it's cleaned out well and that there are no crumbs inside of the machine. So that's the first step. Second step is to place a jar of, or a glass of water inside of it. Don't use a metal glass. Place a jar or a jug or some type of container of water inside of it. Close it after it's all clean from crumbs, and let the water vaporize the entire inside of the microwave. Let's let it get very steamy, usually like 3 or 4 minutes, on high power will make it really steamy inside of there, and then wipe it out. Then it's ready for Pesach usage as long as you have a tray on the bottom, or some type of separation on the bottom. If you can go to the store and get these Rubbermaid trays that go on the bottom of the microwave, or you can even use a few layers of wax, of the wax paper, so that whatever food you put in there should not be directly on the bottom. Okay, because that part does get hot.
The first is, do you have to then move the container that you have your water in and steam it up the second time?
No.
Because it was covering one spot?
No. Because the bottom you can't use anyway. Right? Because the bottom is the one part of the microwave that gets hot just through convection, just through connection to the food that's cooking there. That will get hot, and that does consider to be an absorbent. And the only way you can remove it is putting something on top of it. You cannot kosher that spot.
And what if it wants to, we had water in it 10 minutes.
Did that last
And it
year,
just,
yeah.
I guess it has a real good can or something, but it wouldn't really steam up.
Mine didn't do
I
that.
see,
I wouldn't use it.
Really?
yeah. I mean, the water bubbled, but that was it. No
I've
steam.
never seen my microwave
No steam.
Mine does.
You put
You
water
have
in there, it
water,
doesn't
you have
steam?
water.
Well, we
Pot
cook
of
soup
coffee
and
over.
yeah, I cook boil water, it never steams.
But not for a long time, but let it boil.
We
If you
ran
ever let it
about
boil.
five-
You know, if you
five
boil
minutes.
water.
If you let it
5 minutes at high power and the water bubbled, but there was no steam.
How much
Not
more?
much.
Maybe
Items. We said that there are different items that require different means and different processes of koshering. This morning we koshered in the shul, just for only 4.5 hours. We koshered. It was a light morning. We koshered people's bechers, and silverware could be kosher if your silverware is clean and not rust, and it's not dirty, and there's no glue that attaches one part of the silverware to the other part, like the pre-World War II silverware.
Most knives are like that.
Yeah, and it's just straight metal. That could be koshered as long as it's clean and placed into rapidly boiling water. You take a pot, you make sure that the water is rapidly boiling, and you put it in individually so it's not touching each other. What I use is I've sewn together meshing, for screens, screen meshing. I sewed it together with official Southfield Eruv wire, and now we have our koshering meshes. So that could be used, or anything with use tongs. Tongs get pretty hot. You have to be very careful. It could be quite dangerous. So I've learned the hard way through the years. So there are ways to kosher silverware. Most people have, or many people have, just a second set of silverware. It's much easier for Pesach just to do that. Much harder to kosher pots and pans. If there's specific questions on koshering pots and pans, then I'd be willing to entertain them afterwards.
Is it different than koshering with
Yes and no. It depends on the material, and it depends on for example, if you want to kosher pots, the hanhaga really is to have separate pots when it comes to Pesach. Unless a person really can't afford an extra set of pots. But for most of us, pots are really not extraordinarily expensive today. Because you buy cheap pots, you figure you only have to use them for a week, so you don't really have to go out and get expensive pots.
The aluminum ones, the one with
Yeah, aluminum. They're very, very cheap to go ahead and get these pots.
Can you do this without getting your whole kitchen ready, or no?
What do you mean?
If you're going to be
Sure.
koshering silverware,
Just make sure you don't put it down any place where it would become contaminated again.
I mean, if you have it on paper toweling
Sure,
on the counter
sure.
without having any layers
Yes,
or anything
it
on
won't be
there.
embarrassed by the fact that there's a rye bread sitting 25 feet away from it.
And I have a Corningware top, and we bought new ones, to put in
Right.
instead. Do I have to use the different ones to
No.
kosher the? No.
of a painstaking way, being placed in a basin of water, and the water changed, and then again after another 24 hours, so it remains in water for 72 hours. The water is changed, put in once, then changed the second time, then changed the third time. So it takes 3 series of 24 hours to kosher the drinking glasses and things like that.
You don't have to do it one after the other.
It should be. For Pesach.
For Pesach.
For Pesach.
But not Pyrex.
Not Pyrex.
Not Pyrex,
Not
but
something which
regular
is used for
drinking
heat.
glasses, yeah.
And crystals.
Right,
Oh.
crystal, regular drinking glasses. Right.
What about bowls?
Bowls that were not used for heat could also be kosher in the same way. Removing the chametz from the house, please remember to look for places where no man has thought of looking before. Your vacuum cleaner bags, garbage utensils, and places like that all should be removed from the house prior to Pesach. This year we worked that out very well, and we had the day of Bedika, the garbage day in Southfield, Tuesday. So it really comes out pretty good this year. You could really align it fairly well. If you have stuff after that time, we've arranged every year with the fire department to dump our garbage in their bins. And there's a firehouse right here on, just don't light it up. They get very uptight about that. There's a a firehouse here on Evergreen and 12 Mile in the corner there. So you can go ahead in the back. They have their bin, and you can just dump your garbage there also.
If you live
We
in an
can't leave
apartment,
it by the house, we can't leave it in our garage?
No,
Any garbage that has hummus in it?
no. That's still in your possession. You should get rid of it totally.
if you live in an apartment and the garbage outside,
Yeah, if you live in an apartment and they take it off your property, it's off your property.
Yeah, it's not.
And your mavia is...
So you will pay
right,
the fine.
correct. The B'dikar Chametz, as you well know, the B'dikar Chametz is not a perfunctory search. The search for Chametz on Tuesday night is not a perfunctory search, even though your house has been carefully cleaned and scrubbed and everything else done to it to make it 100% spotless. Of course, the major aspects of Pesach have been taken care of. The drapes that are filled with chametz have been cleaned, right? And underneath the beds, those carpets have been scrubbed because they're just rolling with crackers and crumbs, right? There's a famous story about I tell it every year, about a woman who was koshering the handles on the doors and all types of mishigas, and her husband sitting there with the Shulchan Aruch, and said, "My dear wife, according to Shulchan Aruch, you don't have to do all that stuff." And she said, "If I listened to that Shulchan Aruch, this whole house would be treif." Right? People do, unfortunately, confuse Pesach with spring cleaning. I mean, I guess there's a fortunate part to it because it gets done. So this is the excuse for getting it done, but that's not the halachic aspect to it. If one wants to use a blech like for Shabbos, one should have a different blech for Pesach. Should not rely on the normal blech that you use. One should change the blech for Pesach. Any other questions about the kitchen before we go into products?
One thing you might want to mention, especially for Lynn's benefit, something that happened to me a number of years ago, and I didn't know what to do. As an FFB, I didn't know what to do. Out in the drawers, told them always to put clean underwear in my children's drawer. In my 4-year-old's drawer was pretzels.
Don't eat them.
I was dumbfounded.
Right.
I closed the door. I said, "I sold my chametz. This isn't mine," and I closed my drawer. Now, when I asked the rabbi a couple days later, he said I was supposed to take it out and burn it and all these other things. I didn't know what to do. And since then, thank God it hasn't happened, but these are things
You've
that come
kept that
up
drawer
now.
closed all these years.
Hermetically sealed.
Yeah. I couldn't understand how a pretzel got in the drawer. Your son does and stuff like that. That's
Not
not
hard
pretty.
to imagine.
But I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, well,
So what happens if you find something?
if you find chametz, the Gemara says if you find chametz on Yom Tif, it's muksa. You just have to cover it over and stay away from it, right? They have these little things with the flashing lights, tripods. Danger, right? Chametz, stay away. So you have to cover it over, put something on top of it, and just don't touch it. After Yom Tov, after the first 2 days, well, in this case, after Shabbos, right, after Saturday night, then you take it out and you destroy it. Right? Either you burn it, you can flush it down the toilet if it's flushable, and just get rid of it.
I have a question. I know that if you receive a packet and it's so I know that you don't take it, but if you receive with a magazine, but the advertisement, they have a perfume something.
Yeah, Cheerios in the mail. The anti-Semites do that all the time. send Cheerio. The new they come out every year. They come out with a new type of Cheerios, right? Spearmint brand, Honey brand.
Actually, that happens in Toronto. You got a
Yeah.
sample.
Right?
Tastes like a Cheerio.
That's correct. That's correct. That's what I heard. So you shouldn't accept it, obviously. We include anything, any package which comes on Pesach. We say anything which may arrive in the authorization documents that I have here. So I include in the language of the Shtar Hashah in the authorization, any chametz in my possession, but to which any chametz not in my possession, but to which I have legal ownership, responsibility in whole or in part, or which may arrive during Pesach, is also included in this authorization. So that's sold. So any chametz that you have arriving like that, and you find it, so you can just take that and throw that quickly into the chametz closet or the chametz cabinet where you've already sold your things. Yes.
For my son. He lives with these two nice guys, and I said to him today, Alex, you're going to have to cover up all the pop bottles. They're not beer bottles. All the pop bottles that are sitting there in the room. You think about that, because he's not going to be able to be here the whole week. And he
Pop
said,
bottles? Why is it
well, they
pop
have pop bottles sitting around. So he said, it's not mine.
Right.
I said, okay, I'll ask.
Right.
And the food, I mean, they've got food.
If a non-Jew comes to your house and he's eating his sandwich, and of course you don't want him to get any crumbs all over it, so that's not your violation. And if you happen to live with a non-Jew, it's also not your violation that he has chametz. You only violate bal yirad, bal yimotze, seeing or finding chametz if it's your chametz, not if it belongs to anybody else. And therefore there would not be a problem.
But if you belong to another Jew, yeah.
Well, yes, obviously they should, that's right. They have to stay and keep. Well, they can't do that anyway, but they're probably not kosher.
Well, he told them what he can.
So they're from non-Jews.
They're from non-Jews.
But if it belongs to another Jew, yes, it's Pesach, the chametz of all of Pesach.
If
If it's another Jew, so even you won't be
it's
able
worse
to use
if it belongs to another Jew. That's
Yeah,
correct. That's correct. Okay. Kitniot, for those of us who happen to be Ashkenazim.
Morocco.
What?
Morocco, we don't use it.
Oh, really? So you're one of us.
Syria and Tunis, they use it.
Yeah, Iran also they use it. The rabbis made a decree against using anything from the rice and legume family, because generally assumed that they were able to make flour out of these things, and therefore make cakes and other things. The question is why was something like potatoes not included? According to Chai Adam, it seems that there was a time when certain places in Germany where potatoes were included in this gzera, but it never held. In the Sephardic communities, in the Oriental, imagine without potato starch, in the Oriental communities, where rice is a major staple of their diet, this decree also was never accepted. And there's a principle by a decree, by a takana, if a community had never accepted it because it was unable to accept it, so the takana did not stand for that community. We just heat up the... For soybeans, kidney beans, lima beans, peas, corn, rice, string beans. Mustard is included in that. Sesame seeds.
And you don't even have a TV?
I don't have a TV. We have the records, though. And there are those who include peanuts. Those things are not permissible for... Yeah.
Can you just clarify that again? You said some
There are those who include peanuts, I said. Rav Moshe had suggested, in one of his tshuvot, Rav Moshe Feinstein, that peanuts would not be a problem on Pesach unless you had a minhag, a tradition, not to eat peanuts. And then there are others who are lenient on peanut oil specifically. The general tradition in kashrus, you'll find, for example, you will find peanut oil with hechsher. You will find kosher Pesach peanut oil because of the difference in tradition, whether or not peanuts and peanut oil is subsumed under the takana, subsumed under the decree against legumes. We don't. My parents never had peanut oil. The old problem is that when you deal with situations where people don't have traditions from their parents, right? And we used to talk about traditions, and so my parents' tradition is to have sandwich, to eat bread on Pesach. That's an old tradition in our family.
Goes back many years.
Right. My grandparents ate that. So the question is, what does one do? That's an individual question, but there's a Moshe did say if a person clearly does not have a tradition against having peanuts or peanut oil, then one would be allowed to use peanut oil on Pesach.
The prohibition against nuts is strictly peanuts, though.
Right.
Doesn't cover
Peanuts, correct.
It doesn't cover almonds and...
Correct. Let's talk about some of the annual products. Let's go through my list and see what changes there were. A few here and there. Apple juice requires certification for Pesach because the apple juice uses enzymes and clarifying agents, bran filters, and other things that do involve it with wheat products. Butter needs certification because it uses cultures and other things. Applesauce uses sweeteners, corn syrup, therefore also requires certification. The same as cheeses, creams, yogurts, cultures. But Hershey's cocoa does not need certification. What's the connection between Hershey's cocoa and cheeses, creams? Well, after CH comes CO, cocoa, right? That's the way I have it on my list. There's no logical connection. But okay. Hershey's cocoa, if you have an unopened bottle, an unopened jar, you can use that for Pesach.
It's open, you don't use it.
What? If it's open, you should, powder. Right? Hershey's cocoa. Cocoa is powder.
Doesn't need special...
Does not need special, and does not need the OUP. Honey requires hechsher. Milk we discussed already, if you buy it before Pesach. If not, on Pesach, you should have special certification. Nuts, as long as you don't have the problem that peanuts, the unshelled nuts, as long as they're not treated and they don't have BHA or BHT added to them, or BHT. Those preservatives have chametz problems.
Shelled nuts.
Shelled nuts, if it's unopened and not roasted or anything, but regular plain shelled nuts, that is okay. Like shelled almonds, shelled walnuts. That's okay. Right. Make sure that it has no dextrose or has no BHA or BHT added. Salt, the regular koshering salt, the coarse salt, as long as you have a new box, that's okay. Otherwise, what? What, coarse salt?
Mothers do.
Nobody uses it anymore?
I have a box from when I
Maybe
was
for the ice.
Uses the de-ice the sidewalk.
Right, my wife still uses it in the chicken soup. Yeah, she kosher's the chicken soup with it. Rather than other salt, rather than table salt, she uses coarse salt. It's easier to throw it in, I guess. Otherwise, any of the OU salts that are not iodized or do not have dextrose added to them are okay, or no polysorbates. The normal Morton's non-iodized salt. All granulated cane sugar is kosher for Pesach. Again, all granulated cane sugar, as long as it says as long as it doesn't list dextrose as an additive.
Could I just say a word?
But not brown sugar or confectioner sugar.
That most Michigan sugar is not cane sugar. I mean, people don't realize the sugar they're buying.
Beet sugar.
People don't know it's not cane sugar.
Okay, but it says on it.
Right, but you
have to look for
it's
pure
allowed.
cane sugar.
Okay.
Among the brown sugars, Domino brown. Domino's brown sugar does not require special hechsher. All unflavored tea with a regular hashgacha, like Lipton, Sweet Touchney.
Red rose?
I don't remember. But if it's, does it normally have a hashgacha? If it normally has a hashgacha, I could check. You can ask me afterwards, I can check. Then it does not require special hashgacha.
If it happens.
Right.
The same thing always, but it's not open. The pack of the...
Right, you should use an unopened pack. Right, a new box for everything.
The celestial seasoning?
No, those have barley in them, roasted barley. Well, some of the flavors do, and the others are manufactured in the same equipment. Egg matzah should not be used except according to Ashkenazic tradition. Egg matzah should not be used except by people who have special restrictive diets and they need the softer matzah. Only it's relying on a kula. The problem with egg matzah is that once other additives besides water are added into the mixture, it changes the normal 18 minutes that we use for baking, and we're not sure how much it changes it by. And therefore we are machmir not to use egg matzah unless by people who have a strong need to for it.
How much longer, if there is any more time, can one eat egg matzah until Pesach?
Well, there are different customs about bless you, about not eating matzah prior to Pesach.
And
some
egg
people
matzah
start
was-
from Rosh Chodesh, and some people do until the day of Erev Pesach. But once you're not allowed to, so then there are people who have it, let's say, right in the morning, but you can have chametz then also. So. Anyone have dry milk? Alba and Carnation are okay for Pesach, even without special certification. Among the frozen juices, all of the unsweetened grade A frozen concentrate, orange and grapefruit juices. Okay, that's their frozen concentrate, orange and grapefruit, USDA grade A. That has my signature right underneath it. But even without my signature, are perfectly okay for Pesach.
Is that pastry?
No, it's regular. I have a list of coffees that don't require any special hechsher. Others will have these coffees are round and they don't require any special hechsher. Chock full of nuts, 8 o'clock, festive, the regular bottles of Folgers, the regular bottles of High Point, Hills Brothers, Nescafe, Brava, Classic, Silka, regular only, and Sanka.
So when you say regular, you mean not decaffeinated?
Right.
You meant by regular.
Correct.
There are different brands of Nescafe.
No.
Nescafe Brava.
Have to have OEP.
This is what Maxwell House usually has an OUP, but you have to look for it.
Okay.
Nescafe
Brava,
Yeah.
Classic, and Silka, and the Silka is regular only. And Sanka. Okay. Frozen fish, the Dagim, the Kinneret, and Empire frozen fish without special hashgach are acceptable.
Dagim, Empire, and what?
Dagim, Kinneret, and Empire, the big three.
All types?
Yes, as long as they're not cooked, just the plain, raw, frozen fish. Last year I was happy to tell you about frozen vegetables. This year I have to tell you that we have a problem.
Oh.
And those of you who took my advice last year probably suffered because of it, because we probably had the problem last year, nobody knew about it. And that is that the frozen vegetables are produced on the same machinery as pasta. The big companies now are renting out their machinery for a lot of special runs. They've introduced lines of vegetable pasta products. And therefore we can no longer rely on frozen vegetables unless there's a special certification, which you won't find too many around this year. Next year, Mitzvah Hashem, there'll be special accommodations made.
So you mean no frozen vegetable now is going to be good?
Right.
Unless it's festive or something like that?
Right. Unless there's a special hechsher on it.
Now how about berries?
Right, we didn't do fruit. Still, however, all frozen, until next year, all frozen, unsweetened, whole fruit without syrup should be good. Right, all frozen, unsweetened, whole fruit without syrup. No, it's too hot.
One extreme to the other.
Now, I'd like to then, just lastly, before I take questions, address the issue of medicines. It used to be that most of the alcohol that was used in the commercial enterprises was the artificial alcohol that was produced from petroleum base. However, as petroleum is becoming more and more expensive now, and as grains are cheaper, people are going back to grain alcohols. which are becoming more and more significant problem, especially in the medicinal arena. There are two issues. First of all, in dealing with medicines, many of the liquid medicines, like NyQuil and others, use the grain alcohol bases as part of their formula, and therefore are chametz. And they have to be treated like any other chametz. They have to get rid of them, you have to remove them or sell them, or do whatever you do with the rest of your chametz. There's another type of alcohol, the grain alcohols, which are denatured. Denatured doesn't, just mean that they bring them into the city, but denatured means that a poison, a toxic, is placed inside of them to eliminate the alcohol tax. Right? There's a tax on all alcohol, right? And denatured alcohol is excluded from the tax. Part of the sin tax, the alcohol tax. That's what they call it, sin tax. Cigarettes and alcohol, there's so-called sin taxes. So the problem with denatured alcohol is the following. There are many products like perfumes and others where they're not going to want to pay the extra tax to have regular alcohol in them, so they'll take something that's toxic and they'll put it into the alcohol so that it becomes denatured alcohol. However, there's a question among poskim. If you have something which in its present state is eina roy lachilat kelev, is not fit for a dog to eat. Now your dog is not going to gulp up your perfume because the alcohol in it doesn't taste good. But if it can be easily made into roy, that which is fit, will it become a problem? Will it become a prohibition? During the prohibition itself, the time that alcohol was forbidden in this country, many drunks would heat up and distill cosmetics and drink them in order to get high, in order to get the alcohol content. And therefore there are many people who are makbid, who are careful, even the perfumes and the deodorants and other things which they use, that they would be careful not to have any grain alcohol in them. That's why there are some rather lengthy lists of fragrances and cosmetics and other things that have no grain alcohol content within them whatsoever. And if you're interested in them, or medicines, particular medicines, I brought my list. A very good friend of mine in Los Angeles prepares the most extensive list countrywide of medicines. What is good and what is not good, and what are the bases and not the bases. And I'd be willing to take your questions on the specific drugs and other things that might be of interest to you. Okay, are there any questions besides the specific products?
So then you're saying mostly the problem is with alcohol, so things like Tylenol and...
Right, but Tylenol is not a problem.
Right, aspirin. I mean, the ones
Well,
we've gone through before in previous years.
Right.
I have a couple of questions. Do I have to open a new aspirin on Pesach? A new bottle of aspirin, a new bottle of Tylenol?
Well, when they say grains, those are like 5 grains of aspirin. That's not the same type of thing. But if you use it in the kitchen, probably. Use it in your medicine chest upstairs, probably not, because you have no other contact with any food whatsoever.
So would a no-name, non-Tylenol sort of thing be okay? Any no-name?
Well, if you're talking about...
Like Good Health, is that what we have here in F&M? Good Health, is that what it's called?
You see, in all of these things, like acetaminophen, it really depends on what this guy does. It tells you the company. Those that are produced by Lederle Laboratories, L-E-D-E-R-L-E, how do you say it? Lederle Laboratories, those are okay. Those that are produced by Lemon, L-E-M-M-O-N. If it's Detroit, it's Limon. Otherwise, it's Lemon Company. Well, the Tylenol is okay. 1 second, I'll tell you the Tylenols that... Here, the Tylenol... Just 1 second. Okay. Tylenol, regular strength tablets are okay. Tylenol cold medication is okay. Tylenol cold medication tablets are okay. Tylenol cold no drowsy medication tablets. Tylenol sinus medication, Tylenol X, extra strength adult liquid pain reliever, and Tylenol with codeine tablets is okay. Now, what about children's Tylenol? Children's Tylenol chewable capsules, I know are okay, even though I don't see it here for some reason. What?
Infant drops.
The elixir. Is it called infant? Does it start with infant? As the infant Anacin 3 drops are okay. That starts with the word infant. How about children's? Children's Tylenol chewable tablets and children's Tylenol elixir. That's synthetic grape. That's okay. Children's Tylenol chewable tablets are also okay. Children's chewable Panadol tablets are okay. Children's Anacin 3 elixir. Children's Anacin 3 liquid are okay.